Hello everybody, welcome to my channel. My name's Mel. Thank you so much for joining me today for some quarterly reading stats. So first of all, before we get into the video, I just want to apologise for the lawnmower that you might be hearing. My neighbours have chosen this time to mow their lawns. Very rude of them, I know. How did they not think that I would be filming? Anyway, just to get that out of the way. So today's video is going to be all of the reading stats for June, July and August. If you guys have been watching for a little while, you would know that a while ago I made a bit of a video about channel changes and ways that I wanted to change up what I was doing. One of those things was that I didn't want to include the statistics in my wrap-ups anymore, partly because I've changed the way I do wrap-ups and partly because I do tend to talk a lot, and the statistics were happening at the end. Added an extra 10 minutes or so to the video, and I just thought, why not put them into one video, and I'm going to do the stats for the quarter. So the way that will work is that every quarter you'll have a stats video in 1 month, every quarter you'll have a kids book of the month in 1 month, and every quarter you will have other stuff I've been doing, things that I'm enjoying video for that quarter, and it will cycle around. So this is the video for June, July and August. It should have gone up in the middle of September rather than in the first week of October, but because we had the Because We Can readathon, which involves challenges, daily challenges, I was very busy doing that, and then I am super excited because I hit 500 subscribers, and so I wanted to do a video to celebrate that. So I just didn't get a chance to put this one up. Yeah, that's why it's going up in October, but it does mean that when the next one goes up 3 months from now, it will be September, October, November, so it's still going to be that 3 months. So that's what we're going to do today. Before I get going and talking about all the different stats, I just wanted to do a really big shout out and a really big thank you to Erin. So Erin runs the channel Erin Franklin. It is a Sims channel. Erin is a fantastic, amazing person who has been joining in my lives for quite a while, or our lives, mine and Ellie's, and yes, very kindly helped me out with figuring out how to make Corpile work to help me say all the stats for 3 months. So I use Corpile, which is the rating system that was created by G from Books Roast. It has a page at the end where it gets all the data and makes stats and different graphs and stuff like that, but I did not know how to use it to make it so that it would figure that out every month for me. And Erin incredibly kindly offered to help me with that, and so she did. And she has she's compiled it for June, July and August, but she'll also be figuring out how to make it an ongoing thing that I can do fairly straightforwardly. So massive thank you to Erin for doing all of that for me. Definitely go and subscribe to her channel if you have not. Like I said, it's a Sims channel, so a lot of my followers are booktubers. You may not have heard of her, but I do know there's a fair bit of crossover between book lovers and video gamers, so do go and check out her channel. Her Twitter is also in the description below, so you should go and check that out as well. Also, you should go and check out G from Books Roast, which is in the details below also. So, first stat, my computer is just here, so we'll be looking down quite a bit, but I'm sure you'll forgive me. So the first stat is the number of books that I read in June, July and August, so this does also include any books that I did not finish, or DNF. I read 28 books in those 3 months. I just wanted to say that I know that that doesn't seem huge compared to some other booktubers. I know there are a number of booktubers who can regularly read between 20 and 30 books a month. I am not one of those people. I am quite a slow reader. Not that it's a comparison, not that it should be, but yeah. Anyway, 28 books I read in those 3 months. That is a total page count of 10,108 pages, which is just 37.87% of my reading pages throughout the year. From now on, I'm going to put the little graph that Corpile does for you up on the screen. I like the circular graph, so that's what they're going to be. I think you can change it, but that's what I like anyway. So yeah, They will be up on the screen just here so you can follow along. The next thing I want to talk to you about is genre. It will come as no surprise, I'm sure, to anybody, but my most read genre is fantasy. Throughout the months of June, July and August, I read 9 fantasies. The next most read is contemporary, which is actually a little bit of a surprise to me, but I read 8 contemporaries throughout that time, so the next read genre is contemporary. After that is magical realism, which again should not be any surprise to anybody. I'm including in that more sort of fabulism. So fantasy, I was including grimdark, epic and high, urban fantasy, those sorts of books. Magical realism, I'm talking about paranormal books that are in our world but feature magic or some kind of paranormal or supernatural thing. So I read 4 of those throughout those months. Then tied for next is mystery thriller with historical fiction. So I read 2 of both of those in those 2 months. Then I read that's a lie. What I've actually done is I've actually separated out mystery and thriller. So 1 mystery, 2 thrillers, which means that mystery / thriller is 3. And then I read 2 historical fiction and 1 classic. I should just point out before I continue any further that they're probably a little bit skewed over those months, because in June I went in whatever-a-thon and the team that I chose was the magical realism team, so I was trying to read more magical realism than anything else. And then in July I was the one of the team leaders for the Indie Accords Readathon, and I was team leader for contemporary historical fiction and literary fiction, so I was trying to read those as well. So it is a little bit skewed there as well. But also Corpile has like the main genre that you select, and that is what it's compiling here, but then you can also input sort of the subgenre. So if it's fantasy, you can input it as magical realism as a subgenre. Yeah, so it's kind of what you think, really. But anyway, so that was genres. So now I want to go through the age category. I know a lot of people do kind of put those in together, but I don't. I tend to think that age category is in fact different from genre, and that is how it is in Corpile, so that works out well for me. So for age category, I read predominantly adult books. So I read 11 adult fictions. 3 were new adult, so that's sort of in between young adult and adult, so sort of I'd say between sort of 18 and 21. I read 10 young adult, and I read 3 middle grades. Mostly adult, but quite a few young adult in there as well, so there you go. Alright, so now I'm going to talk to you about the sort of lengths roughly. So there is one column that you can input where it's between 50s page counts. So you can say like 50 to 100, 100 to 150 and so on. So that's up on the screen here for you to follow along, but basically I'm going to start at sort of the top range and go down. The top range that I read from was between 750 and 800, and I read 1 book in that range. I read 1 book that was between 700 and 750. Then we jumped down and I read 1 book that was between 550 and 600 pages long. Then we jump again and I read 2 books that were between 450 and 500 pages long. I read 5 books that were between 400 and 450 pages long. 3 books that were between 350 and 400 pages long. 4 books that were between 300 and 350 pages long. 5 books that were between 250 and 300 pages long. 3 books that were between 200 and 250 pages long. 1 book that was between 150 and 200 pages long. And 1 book that was between 100 and 150 pages long. So as you can see, mostly I read books between the 250 and 300 or the 400 and 450 page range, but we did end up with quite a few books that were quite a bit higher than around 300 pages. 20 of the books that I read throughout that period were books that I own. 1 was gifted to me and 6 were borrowed. The fact that you can specify owned versus gifted means that I had 20 books that were from my owned TBR that I purchased myself, which I think is pretty good going, really. And that correlates to rereads versus first times. So I had 24 books that I read for the first time, which makes sense with the borrowed / owned and gifted, and then I had 3 rereads. So that's pretty good, really. I think I'm doing pretty well there. I do like to reread, but it's not the predominantly what my reading is made up of, so I think that's pretty good. Alright, so standalone and series. There were 15 books from a series and there were 12 books from standalones. Alright, where were the authors from? Overwhelmingly, they were from North America. 13 were from North America. 2 were, for some reason I've written British and then English, so 6 were British, 5 were Australian, 1 was Swiss, and then I don't know what the other 2 were, it doesn't say. Okay, so now we have some stats about the authors, things like own voices, that sort of thing. So, how many of these books were written by authors of colour? 6, which means 21 were white. That's not ideal, honestly. I feel like I should be reading more books by people of colour. So the breakdown of that was, we have 2 African Americans, 1 Latinx author, 2 Asian American, and 1 Pakistani American. So yeah, I really don't think that's really that great. So I want to try and do a bit better than that. And then we have male, female, and non-binary. So I had 1 non-binary author, so again I feel like I should be improving there. 22 were women and 4 were men. So I'm definitely reading more female authors, which is not actually intentional, but it seems to be where I'm gravitating, so yeah. So of all of those, 4 were recognised as own voices for whatever it was that they were sort of representing. So that's 4 versus 13. So again, probably not ideal. Need to think about this a bit more, I think. And then queer, 2 main character, 4 present in the story, and 21 absent. So that is talking about whether it's an author who identifies as LGBTQIA+, or whether it is representation in the story. That definitely needs to be improved also. So yeah, that's something I want to work on. Alright, and finally, star ratings. So what did I think of the books that I was reading during June, July, and August? I had 3 5-star books, so 3 books I thought were absolutely outstanding. 11 4-star books, which is pretty great. So 4 stars for me are, they're still pretty fantastic, but they're not perfect, or they're not like outstanding in some way. And yeah, 11 4-star books is pretty good. 12 3-star books, so books that were kind of middle of the road that I enjoyed but aren't necessarily particularly memorable or particularly amazingly written. Still well written, still enjoyable, like I said, but yeah. 1 2-star and no 1 stars, and don't know that I DNF'd any books during that period of time. I did not, so that's pretty fantastic as well. That means there were no books that were lower than 2 stars, and only 1 book was 2 stars, so everything was pretty good really, so that's amazing. So yeah, that is...
Maybe it just means your ratings are too generous.
Maybe it just means my ratings are too generous. That could also be true. Maybe I need to be tougher. Maybe I do. That's also something to think about. Things to think about. I need to read more diversely, so I need to read more authors of colour. I need to read more authors or representative of LGBTQIA+ books. I need to read more books, it's not on here, but I need to read more books that are not neurotypical. And yeah, so I definitely need to improve, and maybe I also need to think about how I rate and whether I'm rating it too kindly. However, I do feel like I've had a pretty good reading year. I have really enjoyed a lot of the books I've been reading, so I could be rating very kindly, but I don't necessarily think that I would have rated most of those 3 stars under 3 stars anyway. But anyway, something to think about. Anyway guys, that's it from me today. So yeah, if you have any thoughts on this video or on any of the things I talked about, any ways that you think I could improve as well, please do comment all of that below. I would love to have a discussion with you about that. If you intend to make any of these sorts of reading stats videos, please let me know that as well. Do you keep your reading stats somewhere? Please do comment and let me know all of those things. If you would like to leave me a comment but you don't know what, then leave me some kind of chart or graph emoji. All of my social media details are listed in the description below, so if you'd like to go and find me on any of those platforms, please feel free to do so. Thank you so much for watching. I really do hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, I would absolutely love it if you would subscribe to my channel and give this video a thumbs up. And yeah, like I said, thank you so much for joining me today. I really do hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you next time.